Hello, welcome to Brimwood Farm. Good evening, or good morning, or afternoon, wherever you're in the world you are. Here it's about 10 o'clock at night. It's Brimwood Farm Live, and we're just going to have a chat and a catch up, really. I've got my cup of tea, as normal. And it's been pretty quiet this week, to be honest, on the homestead, because obviously it's November. There's only certain things that are growing. And as you saw earlier in the week, I did the video on Monday Magic, which was the Sarracenia, so the carnivorous plants that I've got. I was kind of just tidying them up. And then on Friday, I did the vegetable tour. So you saw from the vegetable tour that obviously I still have stuff in the ground, but stuff isn't really actively growing now. Now, I should say we haven't had the first frost. So we're in the southeast of England here, and we haven't had a frost yet. It's been getting cold at night, and I've just been out now to sort the chickens out and bring the roosters into their sleep boxes. And when you're breathing out, obviously there is that mist and it's cold. I like it. It's fresh. It's a bit damp, but there's no frost. But I know some of my northern friends have had hard frost already, which have killed off, tender plants, put their dahlias to bed because they've all blackened. But here, as you saw from the tour, I've still got some tomatoes outside. And I've got quite a lot of root vegetables in the ground still. So I've got those turnips, those beets, those carrots, and then I've got the kale as well. And actually for the kale, the frost is really good because the frost makes the kale leaves get sweeter. So in the mid-winter, when they get really frosted and they get a bit of snow on them, they are delicious. And I think, as I said in the video, I tend to eat them every day, and I just pick a few leaves and fry them up with some freshly laid hen's eggs, and they are absolutely wonderful for breakfast. But apart from that, it's all been quiet. I forgot my winter greens, as you saw. I have one meagre spinach plant, and I have those bright lights charred. I did direct sow some spinach, but it just didn't come up, and I think perhaps I have been too happy-go-lucky with the chicken manure this year, and I probably put too much on the beds, and maybe I've made them so fertile and maybe a bit rich, and it's burnt the seeds. And talking of chicken poop, we had an absolute downpour last night, and the problem is in the poultry run at the bottom of the garden, the poultry yard, they're on concrete, but the concrete isn't level. The concrete slopes into the middle, so a pond forms. And we had a massive downpour, and it came pouring down. And so this morning I went down, and there was a big puddle in the middle, and I started to sluice the puddle out. And of course, I was still in my pyjamas at this stage. I thought, oh, I'll just sluice it out before I let them out, because I don't want them coming out and drinking rainwater. Because obviously they've pooed in the yard, the rainwater's come down and gone into the middle, and so it's poopy, horrible water. I don't want them drinking it. So sluicing it out, and before long, an hour later, I'm covered from head to toe in chicken poo. I've got it on my face. I've got it in my hair. I'm just cleaning this out. I'm trying to. What it is behind the chicken, box shed. There's like a triangle of garden that is still ours, but it's completely inaccessible. So what I've actually been doing is I've been throwing all the chicken poo and straw and stuff into that triangle. Basically, I'm making a massive compost heap. But that involves going out the back gate, walking down the side passage, and then throwing it back over my fence. And yeah, I was covered in chicken poo. So I didn't mean to do it, but it is sorted, and it's lovely and clean down there now. And yeah, I came in and had a good scrub. And then for the most of today, I've just been chilling out, to be honest. It's been quite cold. It's been damp. It's too damp to garden. I've been in a cleaning frenzy. So life is quite quiet here on the homestead at the moment. I did write a long post today, though, that you might be interested in. I will link it, if you're watching the replay, I'll link it in a card. And it's to do with all the farm projects. So obviously, if you have watched this channel for any length of time, you know that not only have I got this little urban homestead, but we've got family farmland that my granddad farmed. And my dad then didn't want to be a farmer. He became a priest. And so it's coming to me, but it's still in my dad's name. So we're currently in the process of converting the deed from his name to my name without trying to get all that capital gains tax nonsense. But, so there's all this farmland up there, and I go up every month. I'm trying to go up every month to do loads of work. And the plan is to move there eventually and have a small farm with cattle and sheep and things. But I wrote a post up today with all the projects for the future and that have started now. So I will link that and you can go and take a look. And it's got a Google map of the farm. And I've kind of, you know, roughly, as my paint shop skills are not very good, but I kind of roughly circled things where projects are going to be happening. So it's kind of interesting if you want to see more of what's going to be going on at the farm. Yeah, but that's about it, really. So let's see who's in the chat. Charlie's here. Hi, Charlie. Welcome to the chat. And Alana is here. Hi. How are you doing, Alana? I know that Alana has been working well on her studies, on her university stuff. And I think I saw on your Facebook you were seeing a snot... Was it a snot worm or a snot flower worm? I was kind of interested to see how that was. Snot flower worm. Lovely. But yeah, so there's lots of other projects that I've got going on. I know some of you on the Brimwood Farm community page, I've been talking about doing this terrarium for the quail. Because I've got 3 Chinese painted quail. And I've got, you know, I'm constantly trying to find ways to use old fish tanks. Because I've got 4 or 5 of them. And I just don't know what to do. I go onto Pinterest. And everybody's got them filled with like sand and gravel and stuff. I don't really want to do that. But I was, you know, terrariums are quite in vogue, planting them up. So I'm thinking of trying to do like a terrarium to keep this trio of quail in. It will need some kind of top to stop them jumping out because Cortinax quail aren't too bad. They kind of have a flap and they flap a little bit. But button quail or Chinese painted quail, they just pop constantly. That is sort of one of their behavioural things is they just pop straight up. And so if you don't have a top on, they'll fly straight out. But you mustn't have kind of a mesh top because then they bang their heads and basically take feathers off and hurt themselves. So I'm thinking of making maybe like a fishing twine sort of thing that gives a little bit but stops them coming out completely. So that'd be quite interesting. So that is one project that will be coming up in a future video when I've worked out how to do it and worked out how many plants I can feasibly put in there without them destroying stuff. And I am still going to do a microgreens video as well. I've just come to the end of one set of microgreens. I did some sunflowers. I did beets, I did chard, and I did radish, and it was really, really good. It was successful again, so I will make a video about how I'm doing that small scale microgreens thing, especially now I forgot about all my winter greens outside. I need microgreens to take me through the winter. So Alana is saying, I'm researching copography, which is a poo eating, lovely. The snot flower worm was delightful. I've been doing a bit of forensic entomology too. Wow, that's really, really cool. I did a zoology degree, but I don't remember getting into, is it coprophagy? It's something like that, isn't it? Poo eating, basically. Why do dogs eat poo? This is what I'd love to know and love somebody to research. Because dogs, they won't eat their own poo, but they'll happily snack on other poo. So there must be a behavioural reason why they eat cat poo, rabbit poo, chicken poo, roll in fox poo. They won't eat fox poo, they roll in it. So it's a bit weird, isn't it? So Charlie is asking, how many birds do you have altogether? How long's a piece of string? At the moment, I think I did a count the other day, and I think I've got, with the quails that I've got left over, because I did a big cull of the quails for the freezer, I think I've got 48. Now in the UK, you can have as many as you want, but when you hit 50, you have to inform DEFRA. So you have to register with DEFRA, and you have to register with AFA, which is the Animal and Plant Health Organisation. And that's just so that if diseases come into the country, you basically are supposed to get I think it's an email alert or a text alert telling you how many if there's a disease on the way, what to do. And hi Liz, Liz has just jumped into the channel, welcome. And yeah, so next year, obviously, I will be going over my 50 birds for sure. So that is one task I need to do this winter, is to to do that that DEFRA and AFA documentation, because a lot of us got round it before, because last year when I checked, they on the website they specifically said 50 hens. So, you know, chicken keepers, we were all like, oh, well, hens. Well, that doesn't include pullets or chicks or cockerels or ducks or quail or geese or peacocks. But now they've changed it to poultry. So you can't get away with that reasoning anymore. That loophole has been firmly closed. So next year I'm going to have to sort that out, because, you know, if I've got 48 birds as my base level, I'm going to be having tons of chicks next year. I've already got, I think I worked out the other day, I've got Eddie and Ethel pairing. I've got 2 lots of Danver pairings. I've got Barry, obviously, Barry with his Silky Gene pairing. Then I'm going to be crossing I've got another Silky pairing. And then I'm going to do some Polands. So that's 6 lots of pairings already. And, you know, 10 eggs from each. I can't do 10 eggs from, that's it, 60 chicks. We'll have to stagger it. But yeah, there's going to be loads of chicks next year, for sure. And Petra's here as well. Hi, Petra. Welcome to the chat. Oh, so Liz is saying 1 quick phone call and it's all done. Oh, so you don't even have to fill in any paperwork. You just phone them up and tell them. Well, that's really, really good to know. And I know, obviously, as well, when you have to sort of, I think throughout the year you kind of have to update them on how many chicks you've got, haven't you? So yes, we do love lots of chicks, and there are going to be tons. So next year, my plan for this year, and I didn't think I quite made it, because I kind of didn't keep my eye on the ball, but I want to achieve 1 homegrown rooster for dinner every week, or 1 grown chicken. So that technically is what, 27 roosters. I think I did about 20 this year, so I think I was all right. So next year, obviously, I want to do loads of meat birds, but also the poultry shows went so well this year in terms of, you know, selling them, that I really want to just sell a lot more pullets as well, and raise a lot more pullets to sell. And then obviously we're doing Barry's line, so we're doing Barry's colour line. So again, there's going to be tons of chicks. My husband's going to go crazy, because those chicks end up living in the house for a long time. And in fact, my spare bedroom already has 3 huge cardboard boxes that I'm going to be using as sort of little chick houses. So they go into the brooders to start with, but when they get too big but it's still too cold outside, I keep them in cardboard boxes. And Michael, we've talked about this before, the dust is just unbelievable. So I think I am going to have to invest in one of those sort of air purifiers that ionize the dust particles and make them fall, because, you know, we could have 30 chicks in the house at any given time. I may also try, I saw this online and I cannot remember the site, but one guy was raising chickens in a cheap pop-up tent. So basically he just went out and he bought one of those pop-up tents that don't need fastening in. He had it inside. He obviously zipped the front but had it unzipped so the flap came down, so there was air ventilation, and then he filled it full of sawdust, and he kept his chicks in that, and it kept all the dust inside. So I may try that as well. I may pop up and buy one of those really, really cheap pop-up camping tents and try that, because that could actually be a really, really good idea. And because also they are so cheap, you know, if it all goes horrible and it just descends into complete and utter mess, you can throw the thing out if you need to. So Charlie's asking whether zebra finches count. So birds, aviary bird, pet, which are classed as pet birds, don't count in that 50 birds total. It's birds that are classed as farmyard animals, of which chickens are included. So poultry and waterfowl and things like that are included. But your birds in your aviary, they're not included. They're a pet classification, so you don't have to worry about that. Because, I mean, if I added all my zebra finches and my budgies and my cockatiels and stuff on top, I've probably got in excess of 100. So I'm glad they don't count. Liz is saying, "Oh, Barry, what a star." Well, he is a star, but he's also quite nasty. The thing with Barry is he's lovely when he comes out of his sleep box in the morning, you give him a cuddle, you take him down. But as soon as he goes in with his girls, He is a nightmare. He's horrible. It's got to the, well, it did get to the stage a few weeks ago where I couldn't even put my hand in to give them like greens, because he would just attack me. And then at night, obviously he goes to sleep, I go down, I pick him up, I bring him back in, and he's no problem again. But he's very protective of his girls, which is no bad thing, but he needs to learn that I'm not one that's going to attack them. And his spurs are growing quite long now. They're sort of this size. So I'm doing a bit of training with Barry. And I did get really annoyed with him earlier in the week because his crowing is incessant. And he's the dominant cockerel out of all of them. So when he starts to crow, they all respond. They're like checking in with him. But he keeps going. So instead of him crowing and then the other 5 checking in, he'll crow, 1 will check in, he'll crow, 2 will check in, he'll crow, 3, and it goes on for, you know, Barry crowing once every 20 to 30 seconds for about 20 minutes. I really could wring his neck sometimes. So he has actually got a crow collar on at the moment, and it has quietened him down a little bit. And we've also been doing a kind of dominance thing where when he crows, I go and get him and I bring him inside. And then when he stopped crying and he settled down, I take him back out and he gets to stay out. And then if he crows, he gets brought back in again. Hi, Danielle. Welcome to the chat and happy Saturday evening. So let's see. Alana's saying, I still have chicks on the dining table. At this time of year? Actually, no, I laugh, but last year I had chicks at this time of year. I had chicks in January as well. But they are a nightmare and they do become stinky. So Petra is saying, I've done it now. I have an allotment, lots of chickens. What can I have as a newbie? What's an easy chicken? I don't know really. I don't know how to, because I would just say get what you like. Because ultimately, most chicken keeping is pretty much the same whether you've got large fowl or small fowl. If you want to have a few more on a smaller area like I have some bantams. But Liz, I know Liz has only large fowl, but then she has, I think, half an acre or something like that. So she only has a large fowl. And then obviously with the large fowl you get bigger eggs. With the bantams you get smaller eggs, and they often don't lay as much. But I would just say investigate what you want to have, colour-wise, egg colour wise, and just go for it. I wouldn't sort of recommend homing some expats, because as a newbie they can be quite difficult to handle. You think you're rescuing them, but they can have so many problems and they can really just die for no reason. It can be really, really disheartening. So I'd say as a total new chicken keeper, I would go out to a recommended chicken keeper in your area. I wouldn't buy them at auctions. I'd look online, go onto the Facebook groups and ask around, find a good breeder of the chicken type you want, and then go to them and take some from them, and then start off with 2 or 3 girls maybe. Liz, yeah, so back to Barry. Liz is saying, time to pick him up and walk around with him for 10 minutes so he knows who's boss. I know, and he's when I've actually got him in my arms, he's really good and very, very friendly, and it's quite happy just to sit there. But it's when I go into his run, into his domain, he hates it. And because he's not in the poultry yard, so he's not in a place where I can actually get into his coop. He's in one of that little coop, which has the sloping roof and things. So I kind of can't get in there. I just have to reach in there, and obviously that is quite threatening. There's this big thing outside reaching into his coop and to his girls, but his girls are fine. It's not like his girls kick up a fuss when I'm coming for him. So I don't know. So I am gonna, yeah, there's lots of taming to do with Barry, holding him, walking around the garden with him. Another of my, I had a little aggressive Danver, and a trick that I used with him was when he went for my hand, because he's so small you can kind of tackle him, but when he went for my hand, I just put my hand on his head and pushed it down. And you kind of push their heads down so they're being submissive to your hand. And then you let it up again. And if they do it again, you don't put your hand on their head and hold it down. You just hover it over their head and push it down. So just gently. And they quickly understand that actually you're boss and you're holding their head down and they're being submissive by force. And actually, he's been brilliant in response to that. So Charlie says, I got 5 cool ducks and they're really loud. The name gives it away. I love cool ducks. If you saw a couple of weeks ago, I went to that show up near Ipswich, and I'd never actually seen cool ducks in person, and they were so cute. But my crikey, they make so much noise. I mean, the name gives it away, really, cool duck, but they really do call. And that's one reason why I'm thinking of having muscovies, because they're so quiet. Muscovies hardly make a noise, whereas I think I've got cat hair on my face somewhere. The cat's just down here. Can you see him? No, I think you can just see Beetle's head. Yeah, so they are really loud. Really loud. But what colour are they, Charlie? Because I do love cool ducks, and in the future I would love to have them. So Alana is saying, so her chicks on the dining room table, they're 4 weeks old, so they're not fully feathered, and if I introduce them to the big ones, they'll get attacked. Yeah, so I'm considering a new chicken house. Yes! Fill the garden with chicken houses and runs. That's what you should do. Totally. I'm the worst proponent because I'm always saying, get chickens, get chickens. Everybody just get chickens. Daniel is saying, are silkies classed as bantams or just small chickens? There are two types of silkies. So there is a normal large fowl silky type, and there is a bantam silky type. So you do have to be a bit careful. There's the cat, look. Hello. You all right? So you do have to be careful when you're buying, because you may think you're buying a bantam silky when in fact your bantam silky is just a young silky, normal sized silky. They are smaller, so when I say they're large fowl, they're not like massive Orpington size, but you can get some quite big silkies. And when I went to that show, I was seeing the silkies they had there, and the silkies were adults, and they were about this, which is way smaller than Barry. You know, Barry is a reasonable size chicken. He's like the size of probably some of the early Rhode Island Red Boys that I had. So, yeah, just be careful when you're getting your silkies. If you want a bantam, make sure they are coming from a bantam. Preferably try and see the adults so you know the size they'll grow into. So Charlie has got magpie, blue-bidded and white cool ducks. What is the magpie? Is it black and white, I'm thinking? With kind of a iridescent sheen, maybe? Hi, Cat. Cat's here. I hope you're all right, Cat. Alana said, I like this. So Alana says, I need some silkies next year. I think I'm going to buy pullets, though, because I have more than enough cockerels. That would probably be a good idea. But what I love most about that sentence is the first two words. I need. Not I want. I need. And I think you do need silkies. Definitely. God, we're just a load of chicken mad people, aren't we? We can't help it. And it's chicken math. Again, you get one or two and it all goes crazy. I always say this to people. When I moved to this little tiny garden, I had 3 expats and I was perfectly happy. 18 months, 2 years later, as I said before, 48. How the hell did that happen? It just went a bit crazy. Oh yeah, so cool. So Charlie says her cool ducks are black and white. So the magpie is black and white. And Danielle is also saying, so is that the same? So Danielle was asking about the silky sizes, and she wanted to know about the Polish frizzles. So no, so Polands are all the same size. So they are a little bantam breed. Absolutely hilarious. I highly recommend them if you want a fun little chicken that is tends to be really tame, very funny, very naughty. Don't lay bad either. They're not bad layers. Some bantams will lay a clutch and then not lay. I used to have buff Nankings, which originated from China. They would lay 14 eggs maybe and then stop. So it's almost like in their natural habitat. You know how birds natively, they build a nest, they lay their clutch, they incubate them, they go. It was almost like these bantams were doing that. So they were laying their clutch of 12 to 14 eggs and then they would just stop. I often actually get that a bit with my silkies as well. They don't continue to lay all the time. They tend to, with the worst broodies, lay a clutch and then go broody because they want to sit on them. But Polands, I haven't had one Poland go broody. So they're non-broody. They lay a decent size egg, maybe this sort of size egg, and they probably lay every other day, if not a little bit more. and they're hilarious. So if you can get some Polands, highly recommend them, and I really can't wait to have more Polands next year. So I've got those 4 hens. I've got Skeksis the boy, and I'm not doing them for show, because obviously for show you'd have all of one colour and you'd breed the same colour cockerel against the same colour hens, and I haven't. I've got a white one, a cuckoo one, and then the two gold laced one frizzle, and then Skeksis, who is just a random silvery black frizzle cockerel. But it's going to be fun to see what comes out of them. And Kat is saying, I like my large fowl, can't get one with bantam breeds, expanding my flock. Oh great, we'll have to see that. And Kat had this really good idea, and it's something that I'm trying to steal for her chickens. So if you don't have anywhere where you can run your chickens on pasture, what Kat did was she made like a frame with wire on the top, and she sewed into it. So the chickens couldn't actually get to the soil and scratch away the grain, but it grew up through the mesh, and then obviously as soon as it came through the mesh, they could peck it off. And that is something I really want to try, because I don't have any grass. I did have a lawn, and then I had one dog and a lawn. Then I got another dog, then I had no lawn, because first, 2 female dogs, their wee is so strong it just burns patches, and also they were just running around like crazy and destroying it. So I have no grass, but I would really like to have grass available to my chickens. So I am thinking of doing this and possibly just buying a couple of slabs of turf and having them in trays, and having a sort of mesh shield over the top, and just trying that to see how it goes. Yes, thank you, Kat. I'm glad that you showed it, because I think it's a great idea. And who did I see the other day? Oh, I saw somebody else doing it as well for their rabbits. So I think it was on the latest Justin Rhodes video. He went to see a woman breeding rabbits in a colony system, and she was also trying it with her rabbits. So she was, because they're in the same colony the whole time and they're nibbling off, and a bit like mob grazing with larger animals, she would shut off pasture bits and seed them and sow them, and then let the rabbits in later. But she was trying this mesh system as well. Marjorie Wildcraft, that's it. Thanks, Liz. Yeah, I've never come across her before, to be honest. It was just on that Justin Rhodes video that I found out about her. But she seemed like a really eccentric, wonderful woman. And her whole thing was like, her aim in life is to get everybody to have a homegrown meal on their table, and I think that is one of the best aims you can have in life. So she's really brilliant. So what does she do? She organises online homesteading conferences. Oh, cool! I'm gonna have to look her up because I thought she was really interesting. I don't watch a lot of the Justin Rhodes tours, to be honest, because I prefer to watch actual homesteading stuff rather than the tour. But a few of them, pop out at me. So I think I watched the one about, was it? I've forgotten the name. Wild Musk? No, Muskox is. I think I watched that one because that was really interesting, and I watched this one. And then there's a couple of channels that I already watched, and he popped in to see them, so I watched those as well. Alana says, I was thinking of doing that with a Gabion Gabion wall or a Gabion cage, and planting grasses and herbs and things in there. That would be really cool as well, actually. I think the main thing with the Gabion is, because a Gabion wall technically has stones right up to the wire, and so if you were growing stuff out the side, the chickens would be able to get right down to the core of the plant, so you might find that they actually destroyed it. So if you're doing that, it might be worthwhile kind of having a double mesh system, so that you have the Gabion wall with your rocks and your plants coming out, and then maybe another mesh a few inches away, so that there would be some growth, because otherwise the chickens would nibble right down to the stems and probably kill it. They are very good at killing things. So Kat is saying, my pullets aren't laying, they're 30 weeks old. Will they not lay now until spring? No, I think they would probably come into lay. A lot of people get winter eggs by getting pullets, and because they know the pullets are going to come into lay. Because your older girls that have gone through the yearly season will tend to stop. And I'm getting maybe 6 eggs out of 40 hens. So you can see that most of my hens have stopped. But so a lot of people buy in pullets at this time of year or slightly earlier because they know they'll be coming into lay through the winter. So they should still come into lay. You might just find that they're a bit staggered and maybe a little bit slow to start because of the cold, but they should still start. Yeah, so Liz is agreeing about the Justin Rhodes stuff. I never watched him actually on the homestead. I only came to YouTube like 18 months ago. And Justin Rhodes I probably only found in the past 6 months or so. So he's been on the tour the whole time. So I'm really interested, and I haven't had the time to delve back into his videos at home when he's doing his homesteading stuff. But I found a lot of interesting people through him. So like Marjorie and Grass-Fed Homestead, they're brilliant. I really, really like them. But yeah, I'll be interested to see him when he's back on his homestead and he's doing stuff back there. To get a feel of actually how he homesteads. Because at the moment he's just kind of giving us this eye into other people, whereas I want to see what he does. Charlie's saying try Weedham and Reap. I love Weedham and Reap. They were probably one of my first family vlogging homesteaders that I actually started to watch. I love Danelle. I think she's brilliant. I love how Danelle and Kevin kind of have the same sayings. They talk very similar, and I think that's probably because of their marriage and they've influenced each other. I love the kids. I love the goats. Yeah, I wish they did more videos actually, because they kind of slowed off of late. When they were pumping out one a day, it used to be that they used to be my daily fix. I would sit down, I would watch their video. But yeah, I love them. And yeah, Charlie's saying try Art and Brie. I love Art and Brie as well. But again, just as I started to watch Art and Brie, they took a break. So they are coming. They've come back and they've started to do a bit more stuff now. So yeah, I'm hoping to see more of those in the future as well. So Kat's saying she loved the cage they went to. I didn't see that. I'll have to check that out. And Liz is saying, yeah, she had a girl that hatched on the 25th of March who just started laying. Yeah, so Kat, so Liz has just hatched out some pullets. So hopefully that'll work for you. Yeah, Liz, Weedham and Reap are really fun. They're a nice, young, happy family. Arizona. They're pretty urban. You'll see it all on their thing. They're really good. Starry Hilda is one I watch religiously apart from the hunting stuff. I haven't actually seen Starry's hunting stuff at all. I've seen Mr. Hilda's new hunting room where he's got all of his heads and horns and stuff up. I haven't seen her go out hunting. I really, really like Starry. I think she's a really lovely woman. And I'm not religious at all. But I actually don't mind it when Starry goes off on her religious, because she's not forcing it on people, and she's obviously very faithful to her God, and I like that she's not pushing it down people's throats, but she's speaking about it very openly, and I really like that in her. So she always pulls me in because she's really funny as well. I'm going to have to make a list for everybody of all these homesteading channels that we're talking about, so you can go and look at them. So Danielle is saying, I was getting my hair cut last week and my hairdresser just got chickens, and she said her fave is her bantam, which is the ones you have. I don't know how to spell it. Oh, is it the Barber Danvers, Danielle? They're little Belgian bantams. It might be the Barber Danvers. They are lovely. The boys are a bit, they're a bit small, so they try and make up for it in aggression and vocalization. But the girls are sweet as pies. And the boys are sweet as pies as well. You just have to get used to them just trying their luck every once in a while and attacking your legs. But they're so minuscule, they can't do any damage. They're a bit like Saramas in that. So just talking about Mr. Hilda's taxidermy room. Kat absolutely hates Mr. Hilda's taxidermy room. Don't come to my house then, because my husband is obsessed with taxidermy. And we have a typical 3-bedroom terrace Victorian house. So it has these 2 double rooms upstairs and then that little box room in the front. The little box room is floor to ceiling taxidermy. There's just stuff everywhere. And in fact, when we go to the farm, he actually wants to become a taxidermist. And he's going to be starting that actually next year he's going to go on a taxidermy course and start doing it. And the bottom tray in our freezer is his taxidermy drawer. So we already have some dead animals in there. A couple of shrews that died at the farm, a couple of chickens that he actually wants to try and taxidermy. So yeah, Cat, if you ever come to my house, don't go into his room because it will make you scream. Liz says, it'll be great when we are all talking about watching more UK homesteaders. Yes. We need to, and Kat says, yes, we need to overtake the Americans. Some things they talk of, we can't even get hold of. Yeah, and that's the other thing. I really, really love all the American homesteaders. But, A, they have access to things that we don't have. So they'll talk about a system, maybe, that they're setting up. And they're like, oh, you can just buy this in Home Depot, and you can just buy this there. And we can't get that. So it's really, and then B, they have different laws. So, you know, so Danielle from Wyndham and Reap will talk about letting her chickens into the compost heap where she keeps all her veggie stuff. We're not allowed to do that. And then on, I've forgotten the name, green-fed pasture, something like that. Obviously, one of his pigs died, and he talked about the possibility of burying her on the farm. We're not allowed to do that here. So there's those legal things as well that, you know, is different from the UK to over there. So it's nice as well to have, would be nice to have some more UK channels. And also, we're not homesteaders, we're smallholders in the UK. But a lot of us UK smallholders have to name ourselves or talk about being homesteaders just to attract a wider audience, because otherwise, you know, a lot of Americans, I don't think, know what a smallholder is. It's something that they don't really understand, like they don't really understand an allotment because they don't have them. So yeah, so it'll be interesting if we could get more. So Kat is saying, what, we're not allowed to let the chickens on the compost heap. You're not allowed to let your chickens on your compost heap if it's got kitchen scraps in. So it's the whole kitchen waste thing again about, you know, not transferring or contaminating food stuff from the kitchen for our consumption with chicken feed. And it's all become because of that BSE crisis back in the day, because they just don't want contamination. So, I mean, I think Liz was talking about it on Facebook the other day. She finds it fairly easy because she's got loads of space. And so she has a compost heap where you can put kitchen scraps, and then she's got another compost heap where she doesn't put any kitchen scraps, so the chickens can go in there. But if you've got kitchen scraps in your compost, your chickens can't go into it. So what if all the kitchen waste is all fruit and veg? No, you're not allowed. The only exception is if you have a fully vegan household, then you're allowed. Yeah, Liz has literally just said on the chat what I was talking about with her compost heaps. So yeah, so the whole vegetable kitchen waste thing, if you're in a vegan household, you don't have a problem because it's no meat. What the government is concerned about is the contamination from meat products. Possibly you have a chopping board, you're cutting your meat, some of that gets onto some kitchen scraps. Those kitchen scraps go to your chickens and possibly infect your chickens with something. I mean, you know, and the likelihood of that happening is so minimal, it's ridiculous. And then the likelihood of that infected chicken then infecting anybody else, especially in a domestic flock where you're not possibly even eating the meat, again, tiny, 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 but they just don't like it. And it's illegal, and you can actually be fined £1,000 per chicken. Now, a lot of people still do it, and a lot of people say, well, I'm going to keep doing it, but I run a YouTube channel, I'm putting my stuff out there, so I'm not going to do it. The way to get around it is, especially if you are growing veggies, if your veggies are in the garden, say you've got a cabbage, and your cabbage has been eaten by caterpillars on the outside, and you only want to use the heart of your cabbage in your kitchen, well, when you harvest it, you take off all the leaves you don't want to use, and you leave them outside, and you throw them straight into the coop, and then you bring your heart of the cabbage in. No problem. You could pull up your carrots, peel them on your back doorstep. All those peelings, they've never been in the kitchen. They're fine. They're not kitchen scraps. their garden scraps, so they can go to the chickens and you can bring your carrots in. But anything that's been in your kitchen, legally you're really not allowed to give them. And something I also discovered the other week, and I didn't know this, is actually you're not supposed to feed your chickens dried mealworms either, because the majority of dried mealworms in this country are shipped in from China, where their rules for contamination and growing are nowhere near as strict as here. Again, so they don't want contamination getting into the food chain. I haven't yet discovered whether you can feed them live mealworms. So that is something I need to check, because if you could breed your own mealworm colony and then feed them, that'd be perfect. So Kat's saying, well, I never knew that. I chuck my garden waste in with the chickens. I chuck the kitchen waste and chicken waste in the compost. Well, if you chuck your garden waste in with the chickens, that's fine. That's completely fine. And you chuck your kitchen waste and your chicken waste in the compost. Well, you can, yeah, that's fine as well. You can chuck your kitchen waste in the compost and your chicken waste in the compost. You just can't let your chickens into your compost. It's very confusing. But this is the thing why watching all those American homesteads, they don't have these rules. So you can, they quite happily, we don't turn our compost because we let our chickens in and they turn it for us. So that's where there's this huge disparity, and which is why I really want to have always... I love the American homesteading channels, but I would love to have loads more UK channels as well. Yes, Liz is saying, it's because we all have dirty kitchens filled with germs. Quite right. It gives us a hardy outlook, If you clean everything down too much, you get sick all the time. Milano is saying, it's annoying because I have a vegan diet and the chances of my food getting cross-contaminated are extremely... I think you... Okay, I need to look this up, Alana, but I'm fairly sure if you have a strictly vegan household where no meat comes in, I think you can feed the scraps. We'll have to look it up on the DEFRA website to be completely sure, but I'm fairly sure the rules are exempt for vegan households. But that means your whole family needs to be vegan, not obviously just you. If you're bringing in meat and stuff for the kids, then technically you're not a vegan household. So Danielle is saying, Appalachian Homestead with Patara was one of the first I really started watching. She only has chickens for eggs alone. And I was a tad squeamish about, does she not eat her chickens? I didn't realise that. Again, I really like Patara as well. Patara and Starry and Swedish Homestead. But this whole monetization thing has annoyed me, because obviously they've all they haven't deserted YouTube, but they've gone across to Patreon, and obviously there's been less videos lately. And just as I was really getting into their channels, all of a sudden there's not so much content coming out, which is kind of disappointing. But obviously it's also fall winter time, so there is not so much to film. But no, I really like Patara's channel. Kat, I'm completely spoiling your chickens' diets. Yeah, so the mealworm thing, dried mealworms not allowed, which I also find completely hypocritical, really, because you're allowed to feed dried mealworms to wild birds, and those wild birds would be flying around your chicken coop, so technically they could have a dropping that's infected into your chicken coop, and then it's not thought through at all, quite frankly. Well, yeah, what can we say about that? It's one government body trying to deal with another government body's issue and coming up with these half-assed plans. Liz, yeah, you really should. So Liz has just said, I'll do an updated vlog about the differences between UK and US chicken keeping. And I was thinking of doing that too, just to kind of a difference between rules and regulations, because I've seen, the more I've been watching American homesteaders, the more I've been seeing about these rules and regulations. Because another one is, what do you do if your chicken dies? So technically, if your chicken dies in England, because it's classed as livestock, you are not allowed to bury it in your garden, and you're supposed to, legally, you're supposed to actually take it to your nearest waste disposal unit so that they can burn the body. Now, in most circumstances, that is just not doable for people with a backyard flock. And in most cases, councils say to double bag the chicken and put it into your bin. But you're definitely not allowed to bury them in your back garden, again, because contamination. You know, I remember the days of farming in my youth where, you know, if a sheep died on my granddad's farm, it would go into the corpse pit and that was it. But no more. Everything has to be taken off site and burnt and dealt with. And I can see that on farms, but in you know, in a backyard flock, that's really, really hard to do. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So cats, cats say my chickens will be miffed with you, Jeff. I'm telling you, yeah. You can tell them it's my fault. You can show them. You can put a picture of me on a piece of paper and put it in. They can pick my eyes out. I'm really sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have told you. Ignorance is bliss and all that. But yeah, those are the rules. So Liz is saying I did a USA versus UK vlog earlier in the year, but it was so boring. I didn't see it. I need to do a better one. Do one. Really, I think it would be really, and I think actually it'd be really interesting for your American viewers to see how it's not the same over here, because a lot of the time I've commented on a couple of vlogs saying, oh, we're not allowed to do that, and then you get tons of other commenters saying, oh, why can't you do that, that's stupid, and you're like, yeah, it is stupid. So I think it'd be quite interesting for them to see the differences in rules and regulations. So Alana said, why can't you just stick them in the brown bins with the kitchen waste? That would make more sense. I think if I buried one, then the dogs would dig it up pretty quickly. And Alana is also saying, I saw the UK-US blog from Liz and it was really good. See, Liz, it wasn't boring. It was really, really good. See? And Danielle watched it, so there we go. Fans. You've got fans all round. But I agree, again, I mean, this is what really, really annoys me, because you've got a dead chicken, and I understand they don't want the contamination and they want it to be burnt. But the double bagging it and putting it into your bin means it gets taken to the dump, and that chicken is going to decompose, but it's going to decompose inside plastic. So you're just going to have a big dump filled with plastic bags with dead things inside. There's no of this going back to the earth. And I find that difficult to get my head around, because I've said I'm not religious, but I do believe everybody goes back to the earth. Living creatures, when they die, they go back to the earth, the salt of the earth. You know, so I find it utterly bizarre that they won't allow us to do that sort of thing. And I guess I can understand why they wouldn't allow you to put it in your kitchen waste bag, because a lot of councils now use your garden waste and your kitchen waste and they compost it, and then that's the way they make more money, is they actually sell the compost. So I can see that they don't want dead animals in the compost, but it's just like red tape crazy. And Kat saying everything goes back to the earth. I don't get the double bagging, sending to the dump. It makes no sense at all, you know. And it's just, I find it utterly bizarre. And that's, you know, that's why people say, you know, oh, I'm sending it to the dump, and people are like, oh, well, we don't have to worry about the dump because it will rot down. Yeah, but everything's inside bags. This is why when people say, oh, I don't separate out my recycling and my kitchen waste, I just throw it all in because the kitchen waste will just rot down. But it's in a plastic bag. So it won't rot. It may rot down into sludge, but it ain't going anywhere. It just drives me absolutely nuts. You know, and I try and use natural products wherever possible. You know, I use sawdust in the chicken runs. The cat litter is actual horse pellet, wood-based horse pellets, so they will rot down naturally. And it just goes. It's beyond my brain to think that there's all these landfills filled with plastic bags, filled with organic matter inside, which could be doing good and going back to earth and sort of balancing out some of the crap we've done to the planet. But instead, it's just inside plastic bags. You know, I mean, if aliens ever arrive, and we've wiped ourselves out by then, because we probably will, they are just going to look at the archaeological finds and be like, what the hell were this race doing? And you know, they're going to see all these lovely Roman villas from when the Romans were alive and all this beautiful architecture and stuff, and then they're just going to find plastic. And they're just going to, you know, they're going to just look at us like we were the stupidest people, the stupidest race ever to have lived, because we have just destroyed the earth. But that's me getting on my high horse. So Liz is saying, in Wales, the kitchen food waste goes to make biogas, so it would be fine to put dead chickens in. That's really interesting. That's really interesting, actually. Oh, sorry, I've got just a pop-up on my computer. Yeah, so that would be completely fine. But I guess it's trying to do the workaround, isn't it? It's trying to get councils to see. And Alana also says, ours also goes for biogas. They would only let us put garden waste in the bins before when they sent it for compost. Aha. So maybe they need to check these rules out then. But, you know, we do have a stupid government. Whichever side you're aligned on, government officials are government officials. They don't know what's going on. Although, I must say, I have no love for Michael Gove. But him coming along this week and announcing that he's banning neonicotinoids is probably some of the best news that has ever come out of that man's mouth. Because, you know, last year we were dealing with stupid Andrea Leadsom, who was letting neonicotinoids come back into use against all the scientific backing, saying it kills bees. And she let it back in. And now Michael Gove has come along and said he's getting rid of it. So, thank God. I know, Alana is agreeing. I think that's its only redeeming feature ever. I completely agree. And Liz is saying, I don't know who's got his ear, but they are talking a lot of sense. And they are. I can't believe he's come up by this on his own. So somebody must have his ear and his favour. And whoever it is, keep doing what you're doing because it's all good. And Kat is saying, plastic is awful. We wouldn't be communicating with her, I suppose. I know, that is the really bad thing, isn't it? We wouldn't be, we need plastic. But I just think it's important to try and get rid of plastic wherever we can. And we are making steps. Like the UK government has banned, it's either banned or it's going to be banning microbeads, in shampoos and stuff, which is really, really good. And we've already got this plastic bag thing. So there are steps being made, but it's still, we could have wooden computers. We could. And Kat is saying, if we don't protect our pollinators, we are completely buggered. We are completely buggered without our pollinators. And I can't wait to have some bees of my very own. But I haven't got room here. And there's already bees at the farm. And I'm not up there enough. I don't think checking on a hive once a month is enough. Hello, you stretching again? And something I learned the other day as well. There's all this hoo-ha about electric cars. And how good they are for the environment. And I was watching the Swedish homestead, and they're currently under this nightmare situation where the government has given local miners mining rights to come onto their land and mine and do some looking for cobalt, because cobalt is used for electric car batteries. So every technology, it's just we all want the electric car now because it's going to be better for the environment. But the knock-on effect is then there's going to be other people, stuff is still needed. So the cobalt is still needed for those electric batteries. And then so the electric battery industry goes mental. And then poor people like the Swedish homestead have miners coming onto their land to drill wells and things. It's all knock-on effect, isn't it? So Charlie is saying, I have a lot of foxes in my area, but they have never touched the ducks or the chickens. That is amazing. That's really, really good. And I must say, fingers crossed, touch wood, cross my feet, tap my toes. I have not had a fox break into my run and take any chickens either. I have lost a couple of chickens, but that was my own fault. I didn't count them properly at night. Somebody must have roosted outside, and obviously the fox came along and took it. I have a fox come into my garden most nights, but they're pretty good. But it only takes that one time. And as you've also seen, the poultry yard is not fenced in. So if one came in the day when the chickens in the poultry yard were out and about, they could just have a nice little pick and mix brunch, because they wouldn't be able to get away. But I can't contain them all in the shed, so that's a running risk that I have. But that's really, really good that they haven't affected your chickens and your ducks. Just the one thing that I'm always aware of is just don't let your guard down, because if you let your guard down, a fox will take advantage. Liz found some awesome plastic bags for the freezer that biodegrade within 18 days. Oh, that's really cool. I'm currently trying to find, because non-plastic pots, because I want to start selling microgreens. Because microgreens are basically tiny little salads, they need to be contained in a pot, especially if I'm selling a mix. I had a couple of friends do some taste tests, and I gave them single batches. So I gave them just sunflower seeds, just radish seeds, what was the other one? Amaranth microgreens. And then I gave them a mix, and they preferred the mix of stuff. But you need a container to keep that in. But I really don't want to have to go out and start buying, tons and tons of plastic clam packages, which are, like the hinged boxes that you buy a lot of fruit and veg in the supermarket, ready mixed fruit and veg. So I'm currently trying to find an alternate biodegradable thing that I can use. So far, I've only found a possible a plastic polymer that's made from cornstarch, which would biodegrade. So I'm looking more into that. But then you have to, obviously, you're running a business, you need to weigh up costs as well. But I really really don't want to be using plastic. Yeah, so Liz is saying you can get cardboard ones, like the Chinese takeaway boxes they're using in the USA. I'm just not sure whether they would keep the microgreens fresh enough, because cardboard obviously absorbs moisture, doesn't it? So I think the moisture is the thing, and possible mould, and so I need to look into it. But Alana's saying you can probably get bioplastic ones, though they're hideously expensive. I know, so that's the thing that I'm weighing up at the moment, but that's not going to happen until next year probably anyway, so I've got plenty of time to have a look at it. And Charlie's saying, she thinks the dog does a good job of keeping them awake. Yeah, dogs are pretty good. And a lot of people have guardian dogs, don't they? And especially on the American homesteads, they have guardian dogs which look after the chickens. And I know I've got a small holding friend down in Devon, and they have a guardian dog. They have two dogs. One dog actually is a house dog, like a pet dog. And the other dog is solely a guardian dog. And he basically gets up in the morning, runs down to the chicken coop, and stays in the chicken and the geese and the duck coop all day long. And just protects them from the foxes. And a lot of people, my friend has llamas, because alpacas. Alpacas are a really, really good fox deterrent. They are a sort of a natural, their natural instinct is to attack a fox and drive it off, because it's their inbuilt behavioural to protect their offspring. And also the humble donkey. There's this big fad in the UK. Tripod error, everybody. It's all live. See, it's all live. I'm back. So the humble donkey. There is a big fad in the UK to have alpacas, and it was a big fad several years ago, because the market for the wool was way up, really way up. And so obviously they can make good money on it, and the market's kind of dropped out now, so people really can't make a lot of money from alpaca wool, but they're a really, really good deterrent. But the humble donkey is just as good a safeguard animal. And Alana is saying they produce a lot of poo. They do, yes, a nose view. They do produce a lot of poo, but growing up on the farm, we always had a pair of donkeys, so that my grandparents weren't very inspired with names. So, black cats were called Blackie, grey cats were called Smokey, Every single male donkey was called Jasper, and every single female donkey was called Sheena. But I do like alpacas, but I really think I ought to continue the tradition of my grandparents, especially as I'm moving on to their land, the land that they owned and they farmed. So I will be getting donkeys. I will be having a pair of donkeys called Jasper and Sheena, and every year we will have a foal from Sheena, exactly how they did. So that I'm very, very excited about, to kind of continue the tradition. And that's also why I want Muscovies, because a lot of my focus for the farm is to have native breeds from the area, which is why I'm having Suffolk sheep and why I'm having red poll cattle. But I also want to kind of follow the tradition of my grandparents, of what they had, and they always had Muscovy ducks. So that's why I want to have the Muscovies so much, and the donkeys. Oh, Alana was saying that, yeah, she forgot about the farm. Maybe find that she was thinking about the back garden. I haven't got room to swing a cat in the back garden, let alone a donkey. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the neighbours if I got a donkey? Blimey. That would be a bit louder than the old rooster. So Kat is also saying, didn't alpacas allow landowners the right to live on the land with their livestock? I'm sure I remember something about people getting alpacas for that reason. Possibly. I mean, a lot of people do that, and because you can go to your council then if you've got livestock and you say you need to protect it, and that's obviously an avenue we will possibly be going down as well, because if we can't get planning permission immediately, there's no reason to think that we wouldn't be able to, and we probably would. But if for some reason it got chucked out, a couple of our farmer friends up there have said, in that case, you just rent a cottage nearby, you get your animals on the land, and then you go back to them and you say, we've got animals on the land, we need to live there. So, yeah. So that's probably what we're going to do. Maybe alpacas did the same thing, I don't know. And the other thing with alpacas is they're not classed. That's some of the newer breeds that are coming in. Alpacas aren't classed as A, a dangerous animal, or B, a livestock animal. So they're actually outside a lot of the regulations that are attached to things like cattle and sheep and stuff like that. I don't know whether the government at some point will rewrite everything to include alpacas into it, because it seems a bit bizarre. What is going on? My tripod is completely bust. Oh, sorry. Oh, it has. My tripod is broken. Right, are we here? Right, okay. Let's have another 5 minutes, and then before this damn thing pops out again, I will have to go. So Liz is saying, are the neighbours all cool about the birds? Have you had any problems? I have had no problems with my neighbours about the chickens. And most of my neighbours do buy the eggs, and I give them freebies now and then as well. Obviously, I bring all my roosters in at night, so I quieten down the rooster sound. And I live in a little block of 4 terrace houses, and both sides of me are elderly women. Both are a bit deaf, so that definitely helps. I'm worried that this is going to pop out of the tripod again. And Daniel is asking how the Ixworth. The Ixworths are really good. So obviously I had the Ixworth chicks in chick check, and we've culled all the roosters now. So I think, how many did I have? Was it 5? Yeah, it was 5. So I sold 1 cockerel. I went to an auction, and I took the best cockerel. It wasn't an auction, it was a poultry sale. I took the best cockerel with me just to see if anybody wanted him, and he got sold. I butchered the 2 other cockerels, and they are in the freezer. And then I've got 2 Ixworth hens, so they will be breeding with their daddy, Eddie, next year. So I'll have Eddie and Ethel, and their 2 daughters. So they're kind of my little quartet now of Ixworth that I'm going to be using as my breeding stock from going forward. Hello, cat. So we are at just over an hour already, so I think I'm going to end the chat because it's 11 o'clock already. Can you believe it? And Liz is saying, well, hatching eggs. Yeah, so I will have hatching eggs. And in fact, hatching eggs for the Ixworth did really well last year as an income stream. So if you are thinking about trying to make an income stream for hatching eggs from your chickens, hatching eggs can be a really good way to go. It's very up and down what's in vogue, but it seems that Ixworth were in vogue this year. But I will have hatching eggs available next year. If anybody wants any, just let me know. So I'm going to call it here because I think my silly phone is going to pop out again, which is rather annoying. I'm going to have to go and mend this tripod. Thank you so much for popping in on this Saturday night. I know we could all be outside raving, but no, I'm just inside with a cup of tea. And it's a mild cup of tea now because it's gone a bit cold. And can you believe it? There are still fireworks going off a week after Guy Fawkes, which is just a bit crazy. But thank you so much for popping in. I've had a really good hour. I think we've discussed loads of topics and set the world to rights. And I will try and see you again in a couple of weeks, or possibly next weekend, if I'm back in time. All right, have a great week, have a great night, and I'll see you soon. Bye.